Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking, and this is Railroad Rivals. Railroad Rivals is a game from Glenn Drover. You might know of him from the game Age of Discoveries, one of my favorite games. This is a tile-laying game that adds in the world of the railroad genre. Now when I say genre, like, if you've been involved in like this board game world, you know that there are certain like classifications of games, if you will. And I don't mean like mechanisms, I don't mean like co-ops, I don't mean Ameritrash, I don't mean Euro, I don't mean anything like that. But there are like themes or genres or boxes or whatever you want to call them that games get put into, and that's not a bad thing. It's just a really good like overall descriptor. So tile laying games are a game that a lot of people are familiar with, and a lot of people are familiar with, like, I think like the granddaddy of them all, which, well, it's probably not the granddaddy of them all, but I think when you say tile laying to somebody, they will think Carcassonne very quickly. And Carcassonne, I've played that game several times. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy the kids version of it. And there's just something fun about putting tiles down and matching them together and getting things to kind of, I think as people we like to have order, right? And so like when you are able to put tiles together and click them together in the right spot and have things kind of like form a little picture or form a design or whatever, that's pleasing to us. And then so you add in a game element to it, and then you have some way to like score points while doing it. Now, railroad games are an entirely different animal. Railroad games are usually very heavy economic games that are based upon this like kind of romantic idea of this railroad Age of Steam type of situation, which is obviously a game called the Age of Steam. And a lot of games in Railroad World, they have like there's like the 18xx games, which are really heavily economic, no luck strategy games that are based upon like stocks and buying and purchasing different railroads and what have you. And there's other train games that deal with a lot of like pick up and deliver elements, and I can't possibly ever like go over all of it, but it's two things that don't normally go together, right? So when you kind of swish them together, I was a little, I shouldn't say worried, but it was one of those things where how can you take like the fun and ease of a tile laying game and add in like this economic element and still have a game that is going to appeal to like both sides of that coin or whatever. And I think, in my personal opinion, that the designer here has done that with Railroad Rivals. Railroad Rivals is a game that will last about an hour, a little less, depending upon the number of players you have. But it plays really well with like a large number. Like it plays up to 5, and it plays really well with 5. It is a game where you will be building out railways, not so much like putting tracks down or anything like that, but you'll be putting tiles down that will represent the different cities where these different trains are going to go, and then you will then transport goods from city to city, and you will earn points by doing so, and also increase the value of different railroad companies that hopefully you own stock in, that will then at the end of the game be worth a lot more points. But anyway, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, so why don't I show you how the game is played. We'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts. Alright, so this is Railroad Rivals. I have set up a 5-player game. This was a prototype I was sent, so just keep that in mind, as the game that you get once the game is published may or may not look like this when you do get it. One note of difference is I did use some of my poker chips to denote the different like players and the player turn order, so obviously my like personal poker chips won't be delivered in the game. Okay, so the game, as I said, is a tile laying game. As you notice, there is one tile that's already here. You start off with either Cincinnati, St. Louis, or Chicago, and that's picked randomly of those 3, and you place that to start. Each one of these city tiles will have the name of the city. The art in the middle, actually, it denotes the look of that city during the time period that this game is set. So I think that's kind of cool, actually. And then each one of these is a actual railroad company that was in business at the time of this game, and then had business in Cincinnati, for example. So you're going to place that in the middle. You will figure out the turn order for the first turn of the game randomly. You'll just pick it randomly, as I did for this. But after that, you will do a bid for turn order. And I'm going to talk about the bidding here in just a little bit, but the bid's pretty simple. You just go around the table. The first player says, I'm going to bid, 3 to be the first player. Somebody goes 4, 5, what have you. And then until everybody passes except for one person, and then they'll pay the cost in the points that they have on the score track, and then they will get to be the first player. The way it works is, so like let's say if we did a bid the next turn and blue outbid everybody, blue would go first and then would push everybody down. So going and winning a bid is actually pretty important, because even if you lose the next bid, like say red wins the next bid after that, you would have a situation there where, red, you still would only be second, right? So yeah, it's one of those things where winning a bid and being able to go first still has pretty good benefits. So something to keep in mind as you play the game. But anyway, regardless, in this situation, pink is going to go first. And once you get the game going, what you're going to do is you're going to take 5 of these city tiles, and each person does get 2 city tiles dealt out to them at the beginning of the game. You keep those face down so that people can't see them. And then you're going to take 5 of these city tiles. Let me just move Cincinnati up here a little bit. You're going to take 5 city tiles, and you're going to place these out like so. And why don't I actually turn them the right side so you can see. And so like you have Salt Lake, you have Pocatello, San Francisco, Seattle, and Richmond. And then you're going to take 5 of these stock tiles. Now, the reason why I'm using 5 is because I have 5 players. If you have less players, say you have 4 players, you're going to use 4 tiles of each, and so on and so forth. All right, so then you're going to place these stock tiles down as well. All right, so here is how the stock tiles work. First of all, let me talk about the stock tiles real quick. The stock tiles are like the actual companies, the railroad companies, and the pictures that are on here are actually representative of what the actual stock tiles for these companies look like. Something else that I think is actually really cool. And I realize this is a kind of a heavy, I wouldn't even say heavy, I shouldn't say heavy, but it is a heavily themed in economics, right, as far as the game goes, because what you're doing here technically is, yes, it's points, but you're earning money, right? You are helping to run these railroads, and you are getting stocks in these companies, and those stocks are going to be worth money. So the thing about this game is that when you actually have all the stock certificates that actually are represented well, as far as what they actually look like, it's deeply immersive, and I actually really enjoy that bit about it a lot. So, all right, so after that's done, depending upon turn order, the first player will choose a tile. Now, notice, after this turn, before we do the bid, these tiles are shown first. So you do get to see the tiles that are going to be up for bid, and that will be a very, very important factor in whether or not how much you are willing to bid to be the first player, to make sure that you get perhaps a choice city or a choice stock tile that you really want. So each player will in turn, starting with first player, they're going to take one of these tiles. So in this case, then I'll just look at the ones that pink has here. So we have St. Louis, which is a really good tile, and we have Shreveport. And so in this case, since we have to match up the names of the companies with a company that's already out on the board. So it has CNO, 2 BNOs, and a PA, and we're going to look at these two. We're going to try to we already have a BNO, so we can probably play one, but maybe we want to look and see if we can get one for IC or MP or NYC that we can link up to another tile. Now, mind you, there's going to be lots of tiles being placed by the other players as they go. So chances are you're almost always going to have an option of a tile to be placed on the board. But, so worrying about whether or not you have a link probably won't come into effect. But it's always a good idea that if you can head up a link where then you'll be able to transfer a good, which then will increase the stock of that company, the value of the stock, of which a company that you happen to own a lot of stock of, then you're going to know you're going to score a lot of points. But Anyway, so you're going to look at these and like maybe you're just going to take San Francisco because there's going to be a lot of these ATSF stocks available, and this has an ATSF link on it, and so you're going to take that one. And then, and you don't have to take a city tile first. You could take a stock tile first. There's nothing, but you can't take 2 city tiles. You can't take 2 stock tiles. You have to take one of each. So I'm just gonna randomly hand these out. I'm not gonna really think about it as far as that goes. So all the rest of them take it, and now we go back to the first player. We're gonna take a ATSF stock tile, and we're gonna keep that. Now this will never be played on the board. This is just kept until the end of the game. It's gonna be worth some extra points. And then once again, I'm just gonna distribute these as I see fit, kind of randomly to each spot. All right, so now, after that's done, what happens is that the players then are going to be placing these different companies down, and what you're doing is you're looking for a match. So here we have these 2 that match up, the B and O. Now, if you do have a situation where you don't have a match of 2 companies together, you can place one down that has like a blank spot if there's another blank spot available. And you don't want to do that because then you're not setting up a link, because you want to set up a link between 2 things like this, because now when you have goods that are there, they can be delivered and they are going to be worth points. And that's something that's very, very important, because that's one of the main ways you're going to get points in this game. So if you can't somehow, for whatever reason, play anything, you just will pass and not play a city on that particular turn. But anyway, so you put that down, and then if you set up a link, you immediately put down a train on that. Now, if you're lucky enough and you've built up your railroads a bit, and you manage to get a tile that actually connects on more than one spot, you are allowed to put multiple trains down to set up links. So that's definitely a possibility. So I'm just going to look, and then now, since that's done, what you're going to do is you're going to, in this goods bag, you're going to reach in, you're going to draw 2, because it said that's a 2 spot, we're going to draw 2 random cubes, and we're going to put those on there. Now those are just goods. They're yellow good and black good. They're not anything indicative or anything, but the color does matter, and I'll explain that in just a brief moment. So once again, I am just looking for connections here for the tiles that this person has, and so they have this Washington, and they're going to be able to connect CNO and CNO like this, and yellow is going to go there. I'll put those back. And then there's 2 more cubes on that spot. I drew too many, but I'm just going to drop those there. And hopefully I'm not going to run into a situation where I don't have any. Actually, here I actually have something that's kind of neat here where... notice how you probably can't see this, but if you do look at this a widescreen or a big screen, this says PA on there. And so here's a PA, and you are allowed to place one down like this, where I place Indianapolis on this location because these 2 PAs match up. Now, obviously, this NYC and IC don't match up, but that's fine. You are allowed to place, as long as one of the situations does match up, it is a completely valid location. And once again, it may look like you're going to run out of locations or you're going to run out of possibilities, but for the most part, you are going to always be able to find something. So like here's SOU, and we're going to place that and put the red link down, and then the final player. Oh, and I forgot to draw the goods. I do this all the time when I play the game, actually. I keep forgetting to draw the goods. So let's put that one there, and we get 1 here in Charlotte. And then the last one, let's see if we get what are we going to match up here? Let's see, we got a CNO, we got a PA, Cleveland, we have an NYC. There's an NYC. So let's go ahead and put that right there. And with green, we'll put that. And now we'll take 1 and we'll put it there. All right, so now everybody's placed their city tile. They have, they've placed their links, and we put all the goods on there. Now, once again, in turn order, each player will pick any good. It doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't matter who put it on there. They can pick any good they want, and they can transfer it and earn points. Now, here is the trick with the goods. The color of the good matters. If you're the first person to transfer the good, it's worth 3 points if you do it. If you're the second person to transfer the good, it's worth 2 points. If you're the third or more person to transfer that particular good, it's worth 1 point. You want to transfer goods for mostly, unless you have stock that you can improve, and I'll explain how stock improves here in just a second. Unless you have a stock that can be improved a great deal by the choice that you're going to make, you normally are going to want to use your own links to transfer the goods. Because if you use somebody else's link, so let's say as a pink player, I want to transfer this black good because it's going to be worth 3 points to me. Now if I transfer it to here and you just take it off the board to show and get rid of it, and you don't put it back in the bag or anything, you transfer there, pink would earn 3 points because they're the first one to do it. And so they go from 6 to 9 like so. But if they used the green, because let's say they wanted to increase the NYC value of the stock, they want to do that, they would have to give 2 points to green because you're using their train. So let's just say I did that. I wouldn't normally do it, but like, so we give 2 points then, and then we would take and find the NYC, of course now I got to dig for it, but we'd find the NYC stock and we would increase it by 1. Now normally, like I said, you only do this if you are in a situation where, let's say you own 6 shares or something of that particular stock and you want to earn a bunch of money from doing that, you know, because they're going to exponentially be worth more and more at the end of the game. And then each player will in turn do that. They'll pick one good, they'll transfer it, and you're good to go. And there's going to be goods left over, but that's fine, because the next turn you will have more and more options. So like, you know, if somebody places something over here, like let's say this brown good doesn't get transferred for a reason, but somebody sets up another link, you could move from Cleveland to that or whatever. So now that you're done, like I'll just you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's say those are the goods delivered. I'm not going to adjust the scores or anything right now. Now what you'll do is you will show 5 more of each of these stacks, and then you will then bid, and this is the actual bid where like pink says, you know what, it's worth, you know, 6 for me. You know, it's worth like, well, I probably wouldn't go up to 6 points right away. It's worth 3 points for me to be the first player. And then, you know, yellow and so on and so forth. And it's, you know, so like let's say finally we get down and red bid 5. And, you know, I haven't adjusted the points, but let's say they bid 5. They would go down to 9. Red would go ahead because, you know, for whatever reason, you know, there was a tile they really wanted. And so they'll jump ahead like so. And now they'll get to go ahead and pick. I do realize now, I've since I adjusted the turn order earlier, I actually didn't adjust it back. But that's okay. I think you'll have a really good idea of how the game is played. But the game will continue until one player has put down all of their city tiles. And notice how the city tile, the stack, is way smaller than the stock tile stack. And that's fine, because, you know, it will take time for everybody to get through all of their city tiles. You know, you'll continue to draft. You'll just have two rows of the stock tiles, you know, for bidding after the city tiles run out. So once one player has put down all of their city tiles, they don't have any tiles left over. That will signify the game's end. You will then total up the total value of points that you've scored as the game has progressed, and then everybody will total the value of their stocks using whatever, you know, what each company ends up as far as stocks go. So like if you own, you know, if you own COB, 2 stocks of COB, they'd be worth 10 points each. They'd be worth, you know, they'd be worth total of 20 points. Things like that. You total up the value of each one of your stocks, and then whoever has the most points will end up winning the game. This is a fantastic amalgamation of tile laying and a wonderful introduction to this stock resource / economic game that I really, really enjoy. And I think the combination of the two in this manner, I haven't played anything like it, and I've really, really enjoyed it. And it has been able to like get a few of my friends interested into the whole like 18xx stock train game world that I want to dive deeper in, but I can't find people to play, as I talked about. But regardless, let me talk about all that and more in my final thoughts. Oh, jeez. Ow. Anyway, that was Railroad Rivals. It's not a tough game to learn how to play. It's not a tough game to play. It's it can be, however, a tough game to grok at first. And by grok, I mean just figure out how you win the dang thing, right? Now, I'm sure there's some of you out there that are heavy into like games like Chicago Express or Railroad Tycoons or what have you. Games that are you're going to see like this game like scratching the surface of those genres and that type of game, and you're going to recognize it. But for somebody like if you were somebody that had just played a ton of Carcassonne or some other tile laying type game, and you saw this, you might not immediately understand like the processes behind it. Now, I am not a big 18xx guy. I desperately want to be, and as I kind of mentioned in the gameplay portion, is finding somebody to play those types of games has been very difficult for me because of it's a little bit daunting. Right? It's a little bit daunting to get into the big, heavy railroad type of game. Plus, because they kind of are a board game dinosaur at this time. I mean, yes, there are lots of people that play like big 4, 5, 6 hour long epic games, and that they kind of plan a weekend around it or what have you. But for the most part, we are in this kind of board game renaissance age right now where people are playing like that 60-minute strategy game is what people are looking for. Quick setup, dive in, play, you pack it up, and you're done. Maybe an hour and 15 minutes later at the most. And that's not a bad thing, but I really want to play bigger, more epic games. I mean, admittedly, as a father, as a married man, my spare time dwindles quite a bit, especially as my kids get older. But I do look forward to like convention type situations where then I can play these bigger games because I have more time to like invest into my hobby. Now, what I'm getting at here is that this game kind of serves a couple of purposes for me. Well, I shouldn't say a couple. It serves several purposes. First of all, it's just fun. I mean, there's something about the whole idea of figuring out where to put these different tiles and how to get the points. Is it worth it? This is the big question that you're going to be faced all the time. Is it worth it to me to deliver this good from here to here, giving this player over there 2 points for doing so? Because it's going to increase the stock of the stocks that I have by 1 at this time, but I own 4 stocks. That's going to get me 4 points. But then what about other people that happen to own those stocks? They're going to be earning points when I do that as well. So there is this fun, like weighted mathematical decision that you have to make at those times. And that's kind of, I think, at the core, what I think people really like about the railroad economic type games. I think that's one of the things they really enjoy, and that's something I really enjoy as well. I'm not good at those games. I always forget who I'm giving points to and how I'm shortchanging myself, but I always make a wonderful and beautiful mess of myself while I play those types of things. So I like this type of game because of the fact that it allows me to play that and scratch that itch a little bit without having to go to a convention, without having to go somewhere to and set an entire afternoon aside to be able to do that. Now, the other thing that I really like about this is the fact that now, since I've played it with different people of my gaming group, they never would think about playing like an 1856 or whatever. I mean, if I put like Locomotive Works in front of them, they're like, ugh, and I'm just like, and those are games that I really, really enjoy playing. But when I get them to sit down and play this, I can see them smiling, I can see them enjoying it, I can see them saying, maybe there's something to this whole, railroad type of game. Now, this isn't going to be, I don't know. I mean, it could be a gateway to those larger games, and maybe if I can incrementally step it up just a little bit and a little bit more. But regardless, I've piqued their curiosity, and I see that door cracking open at the very least, right? And I figure if I can get my big toe in there, then maybe then I can like start busting out. And maybe in a couple years down the road, I'll be able to get everybody to play my 18 Orient Express at some point. Probably not. But anyway, regardless, what I'm here to talk about is this game right here, Railroad Rivals. It is a fantastic, fun game that is immersed into this world. The publisher and the designer have gone to great lengths to make sure that the different artwork that's used, you know, as far as the different cities, as I said, in the stock market tiles, they look like the historical representation of what those are, and I really, really appreciate that a great deal. The game plays fast, it plays quick, and it has enough interesting and fun decisions to keep even like a big heavy gamer that's like, oh, a tile laying game, you know, they're going to be engaged and they're going to have a lot of fun. So I strongly suggest that if you're a tile laying fan, if you're a railroad fan, you look into this one. Or if you like fun board games, look into it as well. Alright, so there you go. That is Railroad Rivals. If you got any questions about it, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, leave your comments. I love to see them. And until next time, I'm the Undead Viking, telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye.